So it's the second day of the PDAC 2024. As you can see, we're not on the floor this time, but in the offices of Laramide Resources, a uranium company that readers and the audience of GOLDINVEST should know about by now. We're here with the CEO Marc Henderson and going to get an update on what's going to happen this year. And but first of all, we're going to talk a bit about the uranium price to start things off. It went up to over $100 pretty quickly, we have to say. It's come down a bit. I think it's in the 90s now. Tell us a bit, what is your opinion? How is it going to develop over the, well, let's say this year and then longer term?
Sure. No, great. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. Great to see you again and be in person again together. Yeah, we've had an exciting year, obviously, in uranium. It sort of did last year what we predicted, or a lot of the people that were the deep value people that predicted this would be a sector that would eventually be very popular again. And obviously, a lot of that came true last year. Perhaps raced out ahead a little bit faster than people thought. And we obviously went from 65, I think we were at WNA, the big industry conference in September. Yes. We were 60, 65, and then pretty much immediately raced through 100, which caught a lot of people by surprise. I think we're now having a little pause moment, but I do think we're kind of in for, because of the nature of the supply-demand deficit in the market, which has sort of been exposed by the the price movement. I think people are really locked in on how big this supply-demand deficit is and how long it's going to take to remedy it. I think we're in for a period of sustained higher prices in some kind of a high trading range, whether that's bounded by a number like 75, which is where the term market is now, or whether we could creep even higher. Apparently, we're hearing about contracts, and these contracts are done with ceilings and floors, and we were sort of hearing numbers sort of 75 to 120 and that kind of thing. So maybe that's a range that gets up a little bit, but I think we're going to be in that kind of a range for a considerable period of time. And I think as that happens, more and more people are going to start to take a look at the production side of the industry.
That's the uranium price and the developments we see here, which is decidedly positive for the industry, I would say. Also, a lot of positive things have been happening at Laramide over the last year. Beginning of this year, you had some interesting news out. Can you give us a very short, high-level recap on what was happening over the last 12 months, let's say?
Sure. Yeah, no, it was a big year for us last year. I think as we got confident in the price, we started moving more ambitiously to get our whole suite of projects in this whole development funnel, if you will, going towards production. We have 5 projects, 2 bigger ones and three smaller ones. On the biggest one in the United States, we delivered an economic study that finally kind of put that project into context with all the other similar projects, these ISR in situ recovery type projects in the United States, of which there's probably, I want to say, a half a dozen of these things at various stages of getting back into production or becoming into production for the first time. And now ours is clearly in that group. And then in Australia, we had a big exploration season. We developed a lot of targets. We're now going to go out and try and build the resource a little bit further. And the big catalyst there for us this year is we're looking for government change in Queensland, and that would allow us to get that project squarely on the road to development.
Okay, sounds interesting. That would be towards the end of the year, third, fourth quarter, or when would that be?
Yeah, the election in Australia in the state of Queensland is in October. That's a big binary kind of outcome. Obviously, if it goes the way we think, we'll be charging ahead right away, looking to permit it right away. It's a very late stage project that frankly doesn't need to get any bigger or better. But if you can make it bigger or better, it's always a better thing to do. But we want to be ready to go when that event happens, and effectively be ready to submit permits and stuff shortly thereafter. So.
Okay, interesting. And then when you say make it bigger and better, then we're talking about, do you have a ballpark number of what you want to increase the resources by?
Well, the resource now is just about 50 million pounds, and the last economic study supported a mine that was about 4 million pounds a year, which would make it a sort of top 10 global uranium mine. I think the goal for us internally would be to kind of add, if we could add 15 or 20 million pounds to that, and either extend mine life or look at bumping the scale of it a little bit. I mean, it would be very attractive. That's the kind of project that's particularly attractive to utilities, just because they like things with some size. and it would allow a whole number of utilities to take a little piece of the production profile of that project and put it into their supply mix. That's really what, and these uranium development companies at the end of the day were really there to serve the utilities. I mean, it exists to create fuel for the utilities.
Okay, very interesting. So that's the Australian side of things. In the US, can you tell us a bit what you want to achieve there with your projects? I mean, you just had out a PA on the Church Rock, for example. What are the next steps you're going to work on?
Church Rock, we have one final permit to go. We have the federal permitting in very good shape with what's called the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. There will be a updated report put on that because it's in what's called timely renewal status. But really, it's the state side of things. We've got one final permit. We got to get there now. We're working actively on that, and we've got a test going on that's been supported in part by a grant from the U.S. Department of Energy, and then that will lead to the final state of New Mexico permit, and then it would be what you would call, shovel ready, if you will. And from the shovel ready timeline, which is the timeline that we can control, it's relatively short period of time, probably no more than 12 to 15 months to build it because of the nature of what you're building. And we've got a permitting thing, which obviously we don't particularly want to put, specific dates on that just because we don't control the permitting timeline. But it's a fairly prescribed thing that every company's been through. And so you're for Church Rock, you're looking at a project that's probably 3 or 4 years away to first production.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So, along with the rise in price that we mentioned at the beginning, the stock price of Laramide also had a good rise. I won't say it was a price, what they're saying in German, explosion, but it was a good rise, and it's still on a high level. Do you think you're fairly valued to, say, to the peer group? Are you is that the range you're comfortable with, or do you think there's potential to go further?
Well, it was a nice year. I mean, slow and steady wins the race. We've had a very nice sort of steady uptrend. We still are not back to where we were probably in the fourth quarter of 2021, when I think people first started to realize something really interesting was happening in uranium, and a lot of the stocks moved explosively, as you said, off the bottom, if you will. But I think in terms of market cap, where we are relative to the other peer group, I think we've certainly got room to run. We're a constituent of 4 separate ETFs. We're in all the big ones. Our little weighting in those ETFs has been kind of incrementally getting better with all the various rebalances that have been going on, and we're optimistic that's going to continue. I think the one thing that's happened with the Church Rock becoming more visible on the back of the economic study is that the analytical community and the brokerage community and what have you are definitely showing a lot more interest in what Laramide's doing, and I think that'll eventually reflect itself in the stock price.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a good closing remark there. And be sure to check the company out. You can do that at Laramide Resources and also GOLDINVEST in the corporate profile. Thank you.